Welcome in New York. Welcome to the Post 90 podcast. We are alive. We've survived the Messi mania. The boys, the team survived Messi mania. The Messi survived Messi mania despite the viral videos that we saw go live of him and his bodyguard looking scared for their life.
Stressed.
Driving down River Ave, which you can't do if you're an opposing team. And as far as we knew, we talked about on the day, we've never seen an opposing team take that route. So it's a bold decision, on a game of this stature with players of that level in the bus to be like, let's just drive through the supporters march, the opposing supporters march, and see how it goes. Not
a good decision. I think that bus driver's probably not ever busing that team again.
Yeah.
I'd have to assume.
And everybody was right, as we talked about in the last episode. This ended up being a game that was on the global stage. That video alone has made it to every publication out there, and I think it's a good tell of what our team and our fan base kind of are and what we want to be. It's all about New York. We don't really care who you are, and for one reason or another, despite our form, which some will tell you is 9 games unbeaten in the league, which includes language specified to the league to kind of frame it to look worse than it might be, because we did have results in the Leagues Cup that mattered. But, doesn't matter who you are. We show up on the day, and New York's not going to fuck around. And we're going to put Messi in James Sands' pocket, and then we're going to have James Sands pop a header on you in the 96th minute to score his first career goal.
That game it makes you forget about how horrible the Philly game was midweek, which probably touch on a little bit at some point.
I forgot we haven't had mics to talk about that yet.
Yeah, and so this game was fun. I thought it was a little cringy, the behavior of the club a little bit, such fan behavior to be having a halftime show.
A commemorative scarf for a regular season
commemorative
game.
Scarf. You had the fire department out there with the flags. Just things that we haven't done for a long time. We used to do that back when Villa and Lampard and all them were here, and now we're doing it again just because some other guy on the other field is some people's GOAT.
Yeah.
To me, that was just cringy. But at the end of the day, you kind of see why. Half the stadium was pink, half the stadium was blue, but Argentinian blue.
And half the stadium was cheering when Inter Miami went up 1-0 against us.
Yeah. And, all credit to the supporter section. The supporter section were leading the stadium. They were the front foot for the noise, for the environment. There was fans who, you don't normally get other sections of the stadium
involved
cheering and, going along with the chants or singing and stuff like that. That just doesn't really happen. But they were leading and the rest of the stadium was following. I thought that was really cool, but the fan behavior was bizarre to me. I don't know.
With all the Miami support, that must happen around the league, and it must be just weird for everybody. It was weird to hear the stadium erupt as if it was our fans when an opposing team scored. I'm sure a lot of people were upset that were present like us to hear that. But I think you're right. Making a whole spectacle out of it is a bit much. I know the City Boys talked about it, and people were upset with them saying that Messi doesn't bring new fans to teams that he visits as a way.
He doesn't.
Yeah, he probably doesn't make a ton of fans, and I think what you do is if you make a spectacle out of it, that the fans that you will make, they are now kind of being fed a false promise of what it's going to be like to show up to another game.
Yep.
So they may come in the future and there won't be the halftime performance. There won't be maybe a supporters march before every single game. There won't be the Billies celebration pre-game. There won't be all these different things that they're leaning on. So you kind of have to go all in for every game, or you have to not kind of pick these special occasions where you're trying to rope people in for things that aren't going to be there. Because when they do pull up in the future, they're going to be like, well, this is horrible compared to what we did before.
Yeah.
But there probably is an amount, there are probably a bunch of people that showed up on the day that had a great time. It was great weather for it. And, maybe in another big moment, whether it's a derby at home next season or in the playoffs, they'll be open to coming to more games because they had fun on the day.
Yeah, hopefully that's the goal. But most of those, Ronaldo fans aren't fans of like a Saudi League team now. All of a sudden, they're not going to be watching that team when they're gone. So it's just kind of like a short-lived boost in the numbers and, you know, eyeballs. Like, we're not going to scratch 30,000.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, we can't because that was the last Yankee Stadium game, but
that's the other thing is like that's pretty poor timing to go all out, and you're giving these people again false promises. Like, what if they want to come to another game like this week or 2 weeks from now, and instead they're like, we have to go to RBA,
right,
which is just a horrible experience
yeah.
in every way. Whether it's getting there, once you're there and nobody is there, potential poor performances there as well. Like you're making it tougher on them. You're kind of fooling them into being a fan in a way.
In the halftime performance, if you want to call it that, like
they had to put her on stage or something, at least in the middle.
At least put like a soapbox or something, like put crates on the ground and put plywood, like something. You just had her behind home plate. Optically, I was like, okay, like halftime show, that's crazy. We've never done that before. Like they're gonna do something cool, and it just wasn't. Julius Randle though,
way cooler,
so much cooler. That was like one of the highlights, obviously outside of Sands scoring.
Or the cameo from Brees and Garrett and Alan Lazard, I think, all in the suite, wherever they were. Like, those were cool moments.
Yeah, definitely.
But, you know.
I mean, there was, like, the game itself was really, really good. It was very competitive. It was fun to watch Messi get pocketed. I think, ourselves included, like, we expected Messi to come in and have a couple goals, have a big game at Yankee Stadium. That's not even close to what happened.
No, I think, you know, foot mob is foot mob. And I don't think a lot of us like to rest our laurels on information that you only pull from there. But, like, if we're just to look at the ratings of everybody in the match, I believe he was the lowest rated player on the field on the day.
It looked
between both teams. And it did look that way as we were there live. We talked about last episode how we were going. And it appeared that way in person too. Yeah,
he looked like he could never really get it going. I know he gets the hockey assist to Alba, who, you know, goes on to pass it over to Campana for the goal. Mm-hmm. Just on our end as a defense, we just couldn't keep absorbing the pressure that we were. And it wasn't from Messi, it was from everywhere else, it seemed.
And that's kind of that's the nail that you bite when you commit maybe like a James Sands or
2 to 3 bodies at times.
Yeah, it felt like Sands and Tana for sure had been giving specific instruction to like sit on Messi, mm-hmm. and especially Sands, and make sure that like Messi is not going to touch this ball and unless you die it essentially. Yeah. And Sands, he in this game was, not to extrapolate it into former or future performances, because consistency is certainly an issue with this team. But in this game, like, Sands is far and away probably one of the best central defensive midfielders in the game. At times taking work away inside the box and from the defensive players like all-star Thiago Martins, Tana, whatever. Okay, he's able to step in and do a better job than Tana. But he was out of his mind. And for him to go and get that goal, it's almost like the universe just like, we're now going to award you for 96 minutes of hard work to what is probably the best moment in your career. Yeah,
that was his best game by far. To be the best player on the field, that includes Messi, Suarez, Alba, you name it, mm-hmm. is insane. And especially doing that from a position of, a holding back player is simply insane. He deserves player of the match, player of the week. That was... Mm-hmm. an all-time performance.
Yeah,
he played for the badge. Crazy.
I think Messi only had one touch inside our box, and it was that one. I remember we were sitting there watching it. I mean, to put in a minute on it is going to be tough, but maybe the 30th or 40th minute, we're sitting there, and it's when Messi is running across the box on our side, when they're shooting kind of towards the home plate side of the field. And the second he touches the ball, you have 3 players crash on him at once. And like, that was just such an indictment of the tactics that Cushing brought into the game. Right. And, in a way, Cushing too kind of managed this perfectly. It's hard to, I don't want to take too much away from the game at home where we only walked away with a point, when I feel like on the day we can be the best team in the league. On our day, we can be the best team in the league. So it sucks to ever leave home without all 3. But like, the boys went out there and put in shifts, And I think we should all be pretty happy with almost everybody's performance on that field.
Yeah, there really wasn't like a person you can point to and say that they had a poor game. Mm-hmm. Tana like made some boneheaded decisions, but he also
that football tackle was questionable that early in the game, to say the least.
It had the entire press box was like, what did we just witness?
Yeah.
Like, first half doesn't even need to, like, has more than enough help in behind. But I thought we did a really good job tactically to eliminate Messi from the game, eliminate his impact on the game. I know he's such a good player that he's still going to be able to pick up a random ball in the middle, play it to Alba, and have a contribution in some way. But to limit him to one moment in 90 minutes and they happen to score on that one, like, is incredible. You have to pay respects to everybody that was on the field and Cushion. And that's also while not forgiving him and that same team for what they did on Wednesday,
3 days ago.
Which was why on our way to the game, I mean, like, I'm happy we ended up going, but there's so many factors that were like screaming at us not to go to this game.
There were.
Like, there was so many more things to put in the con side of going than the pro. The pros were just like, we might see Messi for 20 minutes.
I mean, there were at least 17 moments leading up to Saturday morning, like on Friday, on Thursday, after the Philly game on Wednesday, where, you know, a text was just a send away from us not going. From me saying, I'm cool not going to the game on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I think we both would have been in at any point.
100%. Yeah. Had you said anything, I would have hopped on it. 100%.
Yeah. So, you know, I think, obviously happy that we made it out there. I think I felt more confident the closer we got to game time. It always happens that way with big games too. And I think we're regulars in that kind of thing. Like, we can know that the team sucks and that we feel just shitty about our prospects in any given game. But as we get closer to game time, like, we kind of normalize and we pull towards the middle that anything can really happen. And I think I tweeted that out too, that just we have a way of playing to our opponents where if you throw first place at us, we're going to play like a first place team. Look at our 2 games against Columbus. In the Leagues Cup and in the league, we gave them hell both games. And then the same thing against Miami. And then sometimes we'll play Nashville in 14th place and we'll lose to them.
Yeah.
And it's hard to know what fixes that. It's like, I think this game said a lot about our identity as fans too, which kind of speaks to the team as well. But you kind of we have to really get that identity locked down like perfectly so that we don't have those moments where we're just on a day-by-day basis kind of flying by our whatever the saying is, flying by or whatever, and just acting like the other team.
That's the thing, is I think it's consistency and confidence that'll get us to that next step, which is 100% going to be coaching, mentality, you know, leadership, whether that be captains, you know, staff, friends, families, whatever it is. But all of that to say, that's why it's so important that we get to the playoffs, because we are a team that can beat anybody. I think that's something that everybody within the fan base, the organization, believes, because they see it.
Yeah.
Like, they see the fact that we can go, you know, granted it took until the death of the game to get a point, but it came. Mm-hmm. Like, this team can literally get a result against anybody. They just have to get to that line and get to the playoffs. And this team, I think, can make a run. But things like losing to Philly midweek in the fashion that they did, like, those things can't happen. The losses that, or, you know, wins that turn to draws can't happen.
Yeah, and it is annoying to feel like we need a moment like that to get a performance like Miami. It always feels like we as a club kind of have to get not just punched in the nose, but like beat in the nose repeatedly to have kind of a bounce back moment. And the cup or the playoff system that the MLS has is not conducive to those types of things, because if you get beat in the nose in the first round, like, you're cooked, you're out. So we have to find a way to overcome that. We have to find a way to, like, take those moments against Philly and, like, spread them out over longer periods of time than just the first game following. Like, we have the Derby coming up now. Santi will be gone, who is a big vibes player on the team and is a big kind of set the emotion of the lineup. He's the guy negotiating with the ref the whole game, fighting with other players, like doing all these things that, like, you know, being a leader on the field, the leader that we've like prayed for Santi to be for as long as he's been at this club. Like, he has fully matured into that now. So to not have him on the field is going to be, I feel like tough is not a good enough word.
Yeah, it's going to be like close to impossible.
To not have Tana with Burke's injury, it just throws another wrench into the system that I don't know what it's going to look like out there. I don't know how it's going to go.
Yeah.
Hack's going to start probably, right?
Probably Hack. You probably see Sands at center back if Tana can't go. Maybe, you know, weird 3 at the back thing with Tavon, and you put Sands in the middle. I think
Can McFarland play center back? We know Tavon can play center back.
No. Tavon, that's what I'm thinking. Is a weird 3 at the back with
Alenich
playing right back.
Yeah, it's going to be a weird formation, and I think we have to have a little bit of a conversation about Kevin O'Toole, because I think he's been getting a ton of hate from people for whatever reason, just because McFarland came in and looked good. And hey, I was the guy kind of speaking to that fact when McFarland first started, and you were speaking to the fact. I was like, hey, I'm good with McFarland for the rest of the season, and we were talking about how opposite of the saying, the distance makes the heart grow fonder. Like, I was off of Kevin O'Toole because I hadn't seen him in so long. You were fighting for him.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to speak at all to that situation. Obviously, Kevin O'Toole looked great yesterday.
Kevin O'Toole's like so clear and obviously the better player.
I'm on
all
that.
around. Like, there's not a part of McFarland's game outside of maybe pace. Like, he might be a little quicker that you can point to and be like, yeah, I'd prefer that. Like, McFarland, to me, when you really watch him, like if you zero in on just him in the games that he plays, he's not confident. O'Toole is like very, very confident, to his detriment at times, but like very, very confident, willing to put a ball in, willing to put a tackle in. More times than not is on the right side of a tackle or on the right side of play. McFarland just isn't that, and we shouldn't expect him to be. He's a child.
He's 17 years old. Yeah.
He's literally a child. It just seems kind of like when things aren't going exactly the way that you want, you kind of want to find the reason that it's not going right. Mm-hmm. And you're kind of shooting in the dark to be like, well, if McFarland was playing, maybe we'd be playing better. That's just not the case. I don't think that he improves the squad at all. And he shouldn't be in a position to even be considered for that type of role.
Yeah, I think if Kevin O'Toole's healthy, there's really no reason to be putting
there's not even
McFarland in. And you know, it's not really a knock to McFarland either. Right. I think we both enjoyed him when he was in, and like there definitely were moments of confidence at the start of it all. There was not much confidence whatsoever. He definitely looked shaky. He looked unwilling to do certain things. He kind of ironed that out the more minutes that he got, but like at the bare minimum, I would say Kevin O'Toole can do everything McFarland can do at the same level.
Right.
But then I think Kevin O'Toole probably has a little bit of a higher ceiling kind of across the board. But like really when we're looking at things like Kevin O'Toole seems to be a bit more technical to me. We saw it firsthand on this Miami game, just the way that he is kind of dribbling with a player on his back or multiple players kind of around him. He can find his way out of it. He kept trying to juggle it and put it up over people. And then just from a strength perspective, like when he does have that player on his back, like he can like give it back to them and not necessarily lose the ball, which is something that with McFarland, and it's not because he's McFarland, it's because he's 17 years old.
Right.
That like when Alba or somebody puts a body on you, like it's the issue that Jason had his first 2 seasons. Like he was a foul machine, not because he wanted to be, but because he was 140 pounds. And there were 200-pound all muscle men, center backs or right backs, kind of dropping shoulders on him. So, you know, it's not necessarily a knock to him. He'll mature. But at the moment, it's far and away Kevin O'Toole.
Yeah. And there's really no conversation there. I think going forward, you mentioned a lot of, you know, some of the folks that will be missing. Obviously, Santi is huge. Like, Santi is such a massive piece to be missing.
He runs this team.
But it kind of opens up an opportunity to get Alonso and Munsef on the field at the same time, which not really something that we've spoken about, but the idea of getting Alonso back on the wing to where he's not so much responsible for like the things that Nick Cushing was saying that he was lacking, which were, being able to link up in the game a lot better, putting kind of pressure on the back line in the way that Cushing wants. You give him an opportunity on the wing with Munsef in the middle, just terrorizing. Those two can go on endless counterattacks together and possibly be a really deadly connection.
Yeah. If Maxi has to start, and Santi's out, then you absolutely put Alonso at left. And you have Baki up top. Yeah. I guess talking about Alonso, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to talk about Alonso at all, because I felt like watching the game, especially when we got to that 60th or 70th minute, that I wish I could go back in time and bite my tongue, even just from our last episode, talking about him, where we were like, there's no reason that he shouldn't be playing 90 minutes. And I just felt like, and maybe it's because I bet on him, and I will take full responsibility that when I bet on a player, regardless of sport, like they're either going to get hurt, they're either going to get hurt, or like they're going to have a career bad game.
It transcends the genre of sport.
It transcends any laws of known science. like they will do nothing. They will do absolutely nothing if I bet on you.
Which, granted, may have worked in our favor because I bet on Messi.
Yeah, and I did too. And
just to feel like. Just because going there, I was like, I need to feel something from this. So if we get blown out, at least I get a couple bucks.
Yeah. But in the 70th, so I'm looking at Alonso in the stadium, and I'm just like, I don't think he has it. I don't think he should be the guy in the game right now. And it wasn't necessarily in the way that I had somebody in mind that should replace him. Like, I wish we would have a different option than Baki, or I won't even mention the M word. But I just didn't, for whatever reason, I didn't want Alonso on the field, which was opposite of what we had said last episode.
Yeah, I mean, I still thought that he was somewhat dangerous. He was probably the most dangerous outside of Santi in terms of offering something. But Munsef came in and looked really, really good and really hungry, which is something that should be rewarded. I know we've talked a lot about Munsef, if he's not scoring at this point, probably shouldn't be seeing the field.
Well, probably like a 10-minute man or something.
Yeah, but I mean, I do think that if you're only going to be able to get a short amount of time out of Alonso, I would prefer it being second half. Mm-hmm. Like, he's probably not a starter. I think tactically you want the guy that's most dangerous and can give you a really good 45 for the second half that matters more.
Yeah, and I hate even peeking into that Pandora's box.
I know.
Like, it's been the whole season.
But
and we had just said the opposite last week, but it is like, and maybe that was like Cushing's thoughts, like, because it got hot in the media for him. He had, obviously after the Philly game, Juan Carlos asked him a great question about why Alonso was pulled, and he talked about what you referenced earlier with not having the link-up play that he kind of wanted, and then he felt like he was fading. And then Glenn, in his pregame chat with Cushing, also had that conversation, and he kind of echoed those same sentiments. So I don't know if Cushing said, I'll leave him in for 80 minutes and let the media and let the fans see what an 80-minute Alonso looks like.
Right.
And I'll take the hit for 20 minutes and the team will play like shit because of it, but at least they will now understand what I've already learned in my brain, what I now have to teach you, because you won't let me teach you with my words. You have to learn with your eyes.
Yeah, and it was a
teaching moment in a way.
It was what it was. I go to the idea of, okay, if he can't go full 90, then which 45 to 60 is more important? Mm-hmm. Is it the first 60 where we've proven that we can go up but tend to lose, the second half? Mm-hmm. Or is it more important to have somebody dangerous out there who can run after people? I really don't know. That's a tough job and a tough question to answer. And
that's why Cushing gets paid the big bucks to answer
or
that.
The medium bucks, who knows what he makes?
Yeah. I mean, that's truly for him to decide. But I felt like it was a get back at everybody to be like, if you want 80-minute Alonso, then you can have him, and we can learn together.
Maybe.
But it's situational. Like, this is one game. I don't want to take too much away from that either.
Right. And that, it is overreaction Monday.
Yeah.
But do you think maybe moving him to a wing position can allow him to not have to necessarily press in the way that a striker does in the system, and maybe gives him an extra 15 minutes, 20 minutes of stamina?
Probably. Especially when you have, if Baki is the guy that's up top in lieu of him, which is who it would have to be, then yes, because Baki will be taking care of all of that responsibility and
everything.
probably more.
Yeah.
Probably
and
some
Hannes
of
does a really good job as well of pressing. Just kind of doesn't really do
much else.
Yeah. That's about it.
Yeah.
He has a unique running style as well, so he probably gets pretty tired. But
yeah, I mean, I think the shitty thing is we're kind of at a point in the season where like major changes like that can't happen except out of necessity, like Santi being
well, that's what was moving
suspended.
him to the 9 was out of necessity. It wasn't necessarily.
It's true.
You know, you're so good at striking the ball that we need to put you at 9. It was like, we have no other option. You need to get there.
Yeah.
And maybe putting him on the wing back where he was before, you know, opens up the lane for Munsef to get started, which I hate even saying that because I'm so against that at this point in the season.
In this derby game, though.
Right.
Our personnel is slim.
But it's kind of like, it's there's this point where there's so many people missing that you have the chance to go and get people going and have the fallback of like, well, I had to. Like, I literally had to. I had no other option. Mm-hmm. So get Munsef starting. Get Alonso on the field at the same time. Maybe even have Hannes operating as the Santi, as we saw he can do. And it was probably his best game, right?
Yeah.
So
Hannes De Bruyne at some point was like a conversation this season.
For 1 week. That went through my head.
That was in the lost files.
Yeah, and it should stay lost. Because that conversation was going through my head during the Miami game, and I'm watching him like have really no effect on the game. And I'm just like, wow, I'm just cringing in my seat at the thought of ever saying that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like he is now De Bruyne. It was more like this may be his De Bruyne moment where he like bursts onto the scene.
Yeah. And it didn't happen.
Did not happen. There's no burst. It was a fizzle.
Burst. Yeah. It fizzled out immediately.
So quick. Yeah.
So I feel like from a Miami standpoint, from a Philly standpoint, from the mania that is Messi brings to opposing team cities, that about sums it up. We've mentioned the derby on and off. We have what is a massive game against the Red Bulls, especially now that we've fallen to 7th place. I think tied with 6th though. Whoever it is, it might be Atlanta. It might be any team in the Eastern Conference. But we have a bit of
all of them.
We have a bit of a gap from us to 8th place. So like we would have to really screw up to not finish 7th or higher at this point.
Yeah.
Like things would have to be catastrophically bad. So we'll see how it goes. If we win this derby game after the result that we got against Miami, it may feel like a bit of a springboard moment. Not to mention the free kick that shall not be named, because I'm kind of tired of naming that moment every season.
I was going to bring that up earlier.
Yeah, and I saw other people on Twitter bring it up as well, and it's just...
Did they?
Yeah, we've done it a lot.
I was going to say that...
We've personally done it a lot.
That event is so burned into our brain that we're constantly, when things are bad, we're constantly looking for that moment.
Yeah.
And I instantly, once the Sands thing happened, I knew that was going to be the conversation. I just hadn't seen it yet. Like,
it was said by multiple people.
As much as whoever's saying that, like, would love that to be the case, but like, it's dragged out at this point.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to give Sean Johnson credit for, certainly, as a keeper of New York City FC. And people will say what they will about him leaving and what happened throughout that process. But I think one of my favorite things that he ever said or did was somebody at one point, it might have been the 2022-2023 season. It must have been 2022 because he left after. Somebody had asked him about if a moment towards the end of the season was going to be the Goody free kick for them of that year. Mm-hmm. And he was like, immediately, absolutely not. This is a new season. This is with new players. Like, we need to not live in the past, kind of in general.
It almost was, because we went to an Eastern final.
To be fair, it was
a
bit of a springboard. But kind of the like thoughts that he echoed, or the sentiments that he had in that moment, are what I try to think of now whenever anybody brings that up, because it's assigning a lot of positive thoughts to like what you don't want to oversell something. Is basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like, just let the James Sands moment be what it is. Because when you say, is this the Goody free kick? What you're saying is, are we now going to win an MLS Cup?
Right.
Which is just insane to say ever. And it was insane to say after the real Goody free kick.
Right.
Like, it was still like, if we look, what is it, Opta that puts the percentages out? Like, we were still probably 1% to win.
If that.
The zero.
'Cause I remember even that playoff run, we had looked at the odds, the actual odds, and we were given like a 13% chance or something like that. And
Yeah.
we're like gassed up about it. We're like, wow, they're giving us 13%. That's insane.
Right. So, it's assigning way too much positivity to moments.
Yeah.
So we'll try our best to avoid it. We are only simple creatures though. So
I do fear if we go and get a good result, dare I say a win against Red Bulls, I may be one in here that's like, the Saints thing might have did it. I hope not, though. I hope we get the result, but I hope I don't have to say that.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see how it goes. I think the Red Bulls are in 5th. They had a game against Atlanta the other night. They were just about to lose after giving up a goal in like the 96th minute. And then they scored in like the 98th to equalize.
Yep, that'll happen.
So they're going to be off a high off that too. And we're obviously going to their house. That is sometimes our house. So...
Our shared house.
Yeah,
our owner-occupied house.
Imagine owning your own stadium and sharing it with somebody else. That is the real L. Like, at the end of the day. So, we'll see how it goes. Obviously hoping for the best. And then we've got a few games after that. And then we're off into the playoffs. It feels like...
It doesn't feel like it. And I'm almost not ready.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that feels like it is the chill in the air that is telling you that, potential large disappointment is on the horizon.
Yeah. So
statistically, more often than not.
We'll have to see it. I mean, it can't be worse than not making it at all. So
no, it can't. It can't.
So it's all around pain we've experienced before. Mm-hmm. So that'll probably do it for the episode. If you've made it this far, I don't even know what to comment.
No, there's nothing.
That's getting cut.
Yeah, there's nothing there. We're off to watch Monday Night Football, to be honest with you.
Yep. I've already won $50, so that's good.
I wish I was you.
And last night I threw out I think it was Mahomes, over 1.5 touchdowns to throw. One of them to be to Rice and for them to win. So I woke up with money in my account because I just didn't watch the game at all. And then this morning I was like, well, let me just run that bet back.
That tends to happen after the bully beatdown that happened to us on Sunday. You don't watch Sunday Night Football after the 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. windows that we experienced.
No. It was like, the only joy I got really was watching the Steelers win, and then everything else was pain. I lost in fantasy.
Yeah.
Lost every bet I placed.
It'll happen.
And it was one of those, you send a parlay and you go to bed.
Yeah, it'll happen. I mean, usually we're hitting bets and NYCFC's losing, and now NYCFC is giving us something to smile about while other parts are more difficult. So That's the way we like it. That's the way it was when we won the cup. That was a gratifying moment that made a lot of other things a lot easier. So we'll continue rocking with the club. Look forward to the games coming up, and we'll catch you guys after the Derby.
Yeah, see you guys.
Peace.
Peace.